Hi, I'm Glenna.
Hi, I'm Tilden, and we're the Invasive Species Management interns with the Lower Hudson PRISM at the Preserve at Vassar.
Something we've been seeing a lot at Vassar and across the Lower Hudson as a region is a boom in the spongy moth population. So we're here to talk about spongy moths. Tilden, what is a spongy moth?
Lymantria dyspar, or the spongy moth, was brought to North America in 1869 by an overzealous artist who wanted to breed silkworms, and they spread from Medford, Massachusetts onwards.
In order to identify a spongy moth, it's helpful to know what they look like during their different life stages. We start out with the egg stage, which they're laid in August. They're dark brown egg masses that can carry hundreds to thousands of eggs. After a month, the larvae are fully formed inside, but they go into diapause, which is basically pausing the metabolism and providing them with an insensitivity to the cold so that they can live in their egg masses until the next spring, when they turn into their next stage, the larva stage, where they are caterpillars. They look very fuzzy and brown. You'll mostly see them ballooning, which is the process of how they get around in the air. So they travel through the wind on a thread of silk and can travel up to 150 yards in the air. They eat a lot of food. So during this stage, there are multiple phases, and the final phase, the final instar, is when they eat about 90% of the leaves consumed during this entire stage. So this is why sometimes you can see a tree that looks like it was defoliated overnight. People can also get a rash and find the caterpillars react badly to their skin during this stage. It's usually from the shedded exoskeletons between different instar phases during the larval stage. Then we have the pupa stage. So this is from June to early July-ish. This is where they find a safe place to pupate before they turn into the full moth. About a week or two after this, we'll start seeing adult moths. We've already seen them around here. So this stage is very crucial for their reproduction. The females, they're pale, cannot fly, and then the males, which are mottled brownish colors, will be attracted to them and find them on the trees. So this is a crucial stage that is happening now. We've seen a lot of moths around, so more often than not, it will likely be a spongy moth.
How do spongy moths impact the trees? They've been documented to eat over 300 shrub and tree species, but they have a preference for oaks, basswoods, and willows, especially on the Vassar Preserve. They land on the trees, as Glenna said, by ballooning, and then climb up into the canopy and graze on the leaves. So they can cause defoliation, which means that all of the leaves will be gone from the tree, which can harm their ability to photosynthesize and keep growing. They can also, when they're eating the leaves, they eat, process it, and then poop out little pellets called frass, which can disrupt, speed up, and destabilize the nitrogen cycle.
Hi, we're here at the preserve at a new riparian buffer, which is part of the Gateway Project, which is a larger restoration project at the front of our preserve. Last fall, we planted a bunch of new native trees, such as this American basswood. And as you can see, they've already been affected by the spongy moth population here that is defoliating a bunch of our native trees. Luckily, this one is budding out, but the reason we're focusing our management here along the buffer is because the younger, less established trees are less likely to survive from defoliation. We are late in the season, so the population has kind of already hit a lot of our trees, and we're seeing a decline in the population here. But as Tilden will talk about, that's because of some of our nature's management practices here.
Yeah, so the spongy moth population has already boomed, and as a result of that boom, the nature's management practices have come in and taken care of that population to kind of bring it back down. So there's two pathogens that really devastate the spongy moth population once it gets big enough. One of them is Entomophaga mimesia, which is a fungus that causes the spongy moth to kind of hang down limply and look mummified. There's also the nuclear polyhedrosis virus, which causes the spongy moth to hang down in an upside down V shape. So you can remember that the virus causes an upside down V shape. So both of these pathogens will wipe out a lot of the spongy moth population and kind of cause it to crash when it becomes too widespread.
Yeah, and we also have management practices here that we're going to show you guys. So one practice, if you have a lot of spongy moths on your own land and your own trees in your yard, is you can pick them off of the trees before they get up into the canopy. So wear gloves because there's a possibility for skin irritation, which can be said about a lot of other local caterpillars in the region. Pick them off, put them in a bucket of soapy water, let them stay in the soapy water for about 48 hours before you dispose of their carcasses, and that's a great option. And you can also, as you can see behind me, we have a burlap trap that we affixed to this American basswood tree, where ideally the caterpillars will climb up as they would be on their way to the canopy, but rather get stuck in this shade providing trap where they can hang out and possibly die from the 2 pathogens that Tilden mentioned, or we can come back with our soapy water and dispose of them then. So we're back at the buffer, our new riparian buffer, where we placed 2 burlap traps on 2 separate native trees. We're back and we see that there's a female moth on the outside of the trap, so this is where it will likely start laying egg masses, but we can remove that. We've already removed a caterpillar and put it in soapy water with gloves on so that you don't get any irritation, and we will do the same with this moth, which is quite charming actually.
Putting up the traps earlier in the summer would have been more effective, since we placed the traps just as the spongy moth's population declined in the area. However, they did have the intended effect, as a few caterpillars were prevented from further defoliating the selected trees. The solution isn't 100% effective and can't be applied to an entire forest, but it can be practiced in an attempt to mitigate the most harmful effects at a smaller scale. We chose to trap these specific trees as they are more at risk to the moths overeating during the larval stage and are key to maintaining hyper-local biodiversity and restoration. While lots of the trees experience severe defoliation, we are seeing them rebud and regrow new leaves now that the larval season is over. These traps are a tool we can use to ensure that these trees will be vigorous enough to grow back. We need to consider how we can talk about invasive species management in a way that creates more good than harm and use it to best restore the land after the effects of invasive plants and animals. Without critical thought, removal may continue to perpetuate harmful stereotypes. So it is best to be conscious about the techniques and language we use in the context of invasives. With invasive species, especially ones we're working to remove, the way we refer to them can have a bigger impact than just on the ecosystem itself. When we refer to invasive species named after peoples or places in the context of removal, we can unintentionally cause harm.
This is why in 2022, 2 years ago, the spongy moth experienced a name shift as part of the Better Common Names project, which is part of an ongoing conversation about how nomenclature can impact perception and stigma. This is important to refocus our interest from their origins to their identifiable characteristics. So with the spongy moth, it's like their spongy egg masses, and it's key to disentangle it from the xenophobic roots. Thank you so much for watching our video. We hope you learned about spongy moths and their effects on the region. It's really important to know about the species around you and know how to best effectively communicate about them. If you have any questions or want to learn more about spongy moth, you can go to these different websites that have really cool information from really cool people, and thank you so much for watching.